So the feeling is we're not going to be intimidated by thugs into not doing our job.
The latest out of Washington after a mob of President Trump supporters stormed the Capitol building.
A San Diego man believes it's his wife who was shot and killed at the nation's Capitol.
The dehumanization of our people is unending.
San Diego County declares racism a public health crisis.
And the county reports a record number of hospitalizations as local COVID-19 cases continue to surge. News 8 starts now.
We must and we will show to the country and indeed to the world that we will not be diverted from our duty, that we will respect our responsibility to the Constitution and to the American people.
After a day of unprecedented chaos and deadly violence in our nation's capital, lawmakers returned to work certifying the electoral votes. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Marcella Lee.
I'm Carlo Cicchetto. Supporters of President Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol today, breaking through doors and windows. They eventually breached both chambers as Capitol Police drew their weapons and lawmakers went into hiding. Protest continued into the evening. D.C. is now under curfew.
Tonight, we have learned at least 4 people died in the chaos, including a woman believed to be from San Diego. We'll have more on what we know about her in just a moment, but we begin tonight with News 8's Richard Allen, who has the very latest on the riot, including the first-hand account of a local congressman who was there. Richard?
Well, that's right. Tonight, some Democratic lawmakers are calling for the forcible removal of President Trump from office using the 25th Amendment. As National Guard troops now surround the Capitol building with a curfew remaining in place through the night.
The House will be in order.
Inside, lawmakers return to certifying the electoral votes following Wednesday's unprecedented assault on the Capitol. Vice President Mike Pence.
The Capitol is secured and the people's work continues.
We must and we will show to the country and indeed to the world that we will not be diverted from our duty.
Hours earlier, chaos reigned as mobs of protesters claiming election fraud stormed the Capitol, breaking down doors and busting through windows. At least 4 people were killed in the violence. Rioters eventually breached both the Senate and House chambers.
We did charge the aisle into the chambers, and we got tear gas and we got pushed back.
We were told to hit the deck because they were really facing a attack right at the door.
Democratic Congressman Scott Peters from San Diego was sitting in the gallery of the House chambers when the chaos began and was eventually evacuated to safety.
It's just so heartbreaking for the democracy and sort of humiliating for other countries to see us this way.
Earlier in the day, President Trump addressed his followers, continuing to support unsubstantiated claims of voter fraud.
We will never give up. We will never concede.
It was not until protesters stormed the Capitol the president posted this video urging calm, which has since been removed from both Twitter and Facebook.
But you have to go home now.
While President-elect Joe Biden also addressed the nation, calling this an insurrection and an assault on democracy.
Today's reminder, a painful one, that democracy is fragile, and to preserve it requires people of goodwill, leaders of the courage to stand up.
We're here to do a job. We're not going to be intimidated by a bunch of thugs.
Congressman Peters said he is confident that the work begun this morning will be completed.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be certified today, and whether you voted for them or not, I hope people respect the democracy, and they'll take office on the 20th of January, and we'll move forward.
Richard Allen, News 8.
And breaking news tonight, News 8 has learned that a woman shot and killed inside the U.S. Capitol building during the riot is believed to be from San Diego.
The husband of Ashley Babbitt tells News 8 he believes it was his wife who died. And while he didn't want to go on camera, Aaron tells us Ashley served in the Air Force for several years.
Here's News 8's Abby Alford with more on the story.
We spoke to Ashley Babbitt's husband tonight, Aaron, and he says that they lived here in Ocean Beach for 3 years, but they met in Washington, D.C. when she was in the National Guard. As protesters stormed the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday, moments later, a woman was shot inside by Capitol Police. San Diegan Aaron Babbitt was watching from home and saw the images of the woman on the ground. He believes it's his wife, 35-year-old Ashley Babbitt. She was pronounced dead at the hospital. Aaron says that he has not heard from his wife and has tried all day to get confirmation. He's called D.C. hospitals, police, and was told that he would get official word from San Diego police. A New Jersey protester says he spoke to the woman after she was shot.
We had stormed into the chambers inside, and there was a young lady who rushed through the windows. A number of police and Secret Service were saying, "Get back, get down, get out of the way." She didn't heed the call, and as we kind of raced up to grab people and pull them back, they shot her in the neck, and she fell back on me and started saying she was fine, it's cool. And then she started kind of like moving weird, and blood was coming out of her mouth and neck and nose, and I don't know if she's alive or dead anymore.
Aaron Babbitt says that his wife served 4 tours overseas in the U.S. Air Force for 14 years as security and then in the National Guard. He says she flew to D.C. by herself to rally at the Capitol. He was planning to pick her up on Friday from the San Diego International Airport. They owned a pool company together. Babbitt says that his wife loved her country. News 8 also spoke to Ashley's brother, who did not want to go on camera but tearfully said that she will be missed. Aaron Babbitt says that Congressman Darrell Issa has reached out to him to say that he's also looking into this.
Thank you, Abby. The president's most vocal supporters also held rallies across California today, including here in San Diego. Hundreds gathered near the county administration building along the Embarcadero. That rally lasted several hours, and unlike scenes at the Capitol, things here were peaceful. That was also the case in Santee, where a similar demonstration was held. Up north in the state's capital, Trump supporters carried flags and broadcast a speech from the president over a loudspeaker. But in Los Angeles, the police department declared an unlawful assembly after fights broke out near City Hall. Protesters clashed with officers. At least 4 people were arrested. During today's mob scene, several of our local lawmakers were holed up in their offices on Capitol Hill.
News 8's Shannon Handy had a chance to speak with them as everything was unfolding. She has more on their experience and their message to rioters.
President Trump supporters gathered here outside the county administration building today, but they did so peacefully. Of course, it was a much different story at the Capitol. All 3 local congressmen I spoke with denounced the violence.
What do you make of all this? What's your message to those people that are doing this right now?
Incredible anarchy. Just incredible. This is what President Trump wanted. This is not democracy.
Speaking to us from inside his Washington, D.C. office Wednesday, Democratic Representative Juan Vargas of the 51st Congressional District said he was angry about the unrest taking place. Images show people storming the Capitol as lawmakers were preparing to certify the Electoral College votes. That forced them to shelter in place. Congressman Vargas said he and his staff were prepared to fight.
I am in my office. They've told us to shelter in place. I have a few staff members that are here helping me, and I told them, okay, we may have to protect ourselves. We heard people running down the halls here. So we've got the flags that we can use for protection. They have a point at the top. We have sticks. And if they break in, we're going to fight.
We also heard from Democratic Congressman Mike Levin of the 49th District. He had this message for those responsible for the violence.
I would just reiterate, this is not who we are as Americans. We are better than this. We can disagree about our politics, but resorting to this kind of violence is absolutely uncalled for. The people that are responsible for this need to be held to account.
Due to COVID precautions, neither Vargas nor Levin were on the House floor when protesters broke in. But Republican Congressman Darrell Issa of the 50th District was. He made it safely to his office, which overlooks the east side of the Capitol.
I want to denounce this in the strongest possible terms. Those responsible for this need to be held accountable for the injury to property and to people. A young woman has a bullet in her, apparently neck or chest. It is the result of the decision for violence by a small portion of those people that were here today.
And those congressmen tell me they look forward to getting back to work and certifying the Electoral College votes.
Thanks, Shannon. In response to the siege of the U.S. Capitol this afternoon, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria and City Council President Jen Campbell issued a joint statement. Quote, What we saw today in Washington was an assault on our democracy emboldened by the President of the United States. Today is a dark day in our history, and we must quickly set about the work of repairing the damage done to our democracy. We are heartened by congressional leaders' decision to get back to work to affirm the will of the voters and declare Joe Biden and Kamala Harris our new president and vice president tonight. The images out of Washington today were unlike anything we've seen in our lifetime. Mobs of angry Americans storming the steps of the Capitol building, forcing lawmakers to go into hiding, fearing for their safety. It's the first time the U.S. Capitol has been breached since the British attacked and burned the building in 1814. News 8 editor Michael Scalise shows us more images of this historic and chaotic day in our nation.
Rioters and thugs don't run the Capitol. We're the United States of America.
I don't understand how it's gotten this far. It should have never gotten as far as it has.
They tried to disrupt our democracy. They failed.